How are your New Year's resolutions going? I won't make us do a show of hands, but I think the laughter is telling. But I'm also willing to bet that most of us who made some sort of resolution will likely fail, if not already. In fact, as I discovered, there's even an unofficial holiday observed every January 17th. Ditch New Year's Resolution Day. Who knew? And a statistic I stumbled across suggests that actually only 8% of people actually achieve their intended resolutions. The reasons for failure are varied, from making too many resolutions to setting goals that are simply unachievable. In short, our resolutions often set us up for failure. And of course, as we all know, change is hard. Change, it seems, is the order of the day in our gospel text. John the Baptist has been arrested. Jesus retreats and moves to Galilee. He proclaims that the dominion of heaven has come near, and he starts recruiting followers. Followers who immediately experience drastic change, immediately leaving their occupations, their families, and their livelihoods. And they go throughout Galilee as Jesus only intensifies his public ministry of teaching and preaching and healing. If the calling of these first few followers of Jesus is any indication, it's a given that change is caught up in what it means to be a disciple. Indeed, we might say that discipleship demands transformation. Last Monday, in the thick of the ice storm when I was at home, I happened upon an episode of The View. One of their guests that day was Arno Michaelis. His story began in an alcoholic household, with parents who would often fight. By his own admission, he reacted by lashing out and turning to bullying and violence. By the time he was a teenager, he had gotten into the punk rock music scene, which ultimately led him to fall in with the white supremacist movement. Eventually, he would become a founding member of one of the largest white supremacist organizations in the world, using his own band as a platform for his hate-filled agenda. Then, slowly, his life began to be interrupted. He attributes his gradual awakening to people that he claimed to hate, people of color and sexual orientations different from his own, who showed him kindness when he least deserved it. At 24, he became a single parent to his young daughter, and just a few months after that, a second friend of his was killed in a violent street fight. It was a slap-in-the-face moment, he said later, that gave him the opportunity to leave his life of hate behind. Today, Arno has become an anti-hate activist. In 2012, one of the members of the hate group that he had previously helped form killed 6 people at the Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Following that shooting, the son of one of the victims reached out to Arno in an attempt to better understand what had happened at his place of worship. The two have since become close friends and partners in the anti-hate activism work. It's an inspiring story of transformation, indeed, though most of us have never and probably will never experience a change quite that drastic in our own lives. The call of discipleship is nonetheless caught up with change. One pastor writes of this week's gospel text and the abrupt call of the disciples. She says, their assignments have to change because the culture, indeed the world, has changed. God's call often seems to be directly related to some major shift that requires a strong witness. In the aftermath of what seems like the most divisive election in recent history, and a new administration that has left many feeling afraid and angry and vulnerable, indeed in the midst of national change, our call as disciples only intensifies our public witness to a radically inclusive, justice-seeking gospel that proclaims love, not hate. Just last night, I participated in the Women's March downtown with hundreds of thousands of others across the nation, across the world, who did the same. It was a powerful witness seeing all of those signs in person and pictures on social media. Powerful witness that love can and love does, and love will always trump hate. Often, though, I fear that we lose sight of the why in favor of the what, focusing on the work itself and its results, and not our calling and our identity that compel us. I suspect this is also why so many New Year's resolutions fail. We are coerced into making commitments to better ourselves that are not always necessarily goals that are important for us and who we authentically are. When you're not in touch with your identity, it's easy to suffer burnout and lose energy for the things we do or the things we think we're supposed to do. Yes, change is demanded in the life of a disciple, and it's important work, but it's a call to change systems that are hurting people. Because indeed, we are already changed through the work of Christ. The Reformers called this idea the third use of the law in our book of Lutheran Confessions. That also actually functions as a really great doorstep, by the way, side note. But for the beloved community of the church, the law, God's unchangeable will for justice, becomes what they call a sure guide, according to which we can orient and conduct our entire lives. The call of the disciple, therefore, is to do those things which the law requires, to do justice and to love kindness, freely and without compulsion, and most especially in the face of hatred and all of the forces that tell marginalized communities they don't matter. And we can follow this path of discipleship, Jesus' call to follow me, precisely because of who we are as beloved children of God, made in the divine image with inherent sacred worth and dignity. These first followers of Jesus most assuredly had no idea what on earth he meant by becoming fishers of people. I'm really not sure I even do. But the fact that they were called to begin with indicates that Jesus saw something of value, some potential in them. This is true for us as well. As another preacher writes, even when we don't know what being a child of God exactly means, or when we're not confident of what it is precisely that we're being called to do, we can rest in the assurance that God values, honors, and loves us, just as we are. This is a truth that we need to be reminded of regularly. Being a disciple is hard work, and we need to be fed in that work. We are fed every Sunday at this table. We are fed in fellowship during adult forum and coffee hour and our potluck meals together. We are fed in small group book studies, and we're fed in relationship with other people, both within and outside of these walls. Once we are fed, I suspect that the rest will follow.